Hi, friends. I'm Gio, and Bentley is at my side. He's currently chewing on a chew bone. He's also responsible for special effects. Thank you for joining us. This is called The Prince Who Loved Me Didn't Exist. Chapter 1. The first Monday of September was also the first day of the semester at UNLV. My best friend, Tyrone, set his tray alongside mine. He had a coffee, a cheese Danish, and his phone open to CNN. "Dylan, did you hear the news? Entertainment Now said that the heir to Alastria will be attending our university. In fact, he's already here." "So?" I asked. Tyrone pulled up a picture on his phone. A man, early 20s, sandy hair regally styled and wearing a ceremonial tux with a gold medal on the left breast. He held a gold goblet in his right hand, but it was his eyes that intrigued me, dark as shadow. "That's Prince Alexander Beaumont," Tyrone said. "His family is filthy lucre to the extreme. Banking, tourism, precision medical equipment. Big bucks does not describe them." "Never heard of Alastria." "Didn't you pay attention in geography? It's a small country bordering Austria, Germany, and the Czech Republic. Like Switzerland, they are one of the neutral countries in the world." "So they're great for banking and hiding money. What does that have to do with us peasants?" Tyrone grabbed my head and forced my gaze to the other side of the cafeteria. Doesn't that look like him? Tailored gray jacket, crisp white shirt that probably cost as much as tuition, and a tie, purple and gold, not yellow, but gold, almost metallic. On his pocket was the emblem of his country. Beside him sat a bodyguard in a black suit with a black earbud, black sunglasses, and a darker scowl. Bodyguard doesn't look like he's enjoying himself. I picked up a bagel and smeared cream cheese on it. The prince sipped coffee from a cup. That wasn't what bothered me. It was the way he held it, diplomatically, between his right thumb and forefinger with his pinky held stiffly out. "Seriously, he looks like a cliché in the movies," I muttered. Tyrone smirked and took a bite of his burger. The tomato fell out and hit the plate. "Well, he stuffed it back in," he replied. "The prince's life must be one grand performance after another. Why do you think he chose America to go to college and a little podunk thing like UNLV, and not Stanford or Harvard? You'd think he'd have chosen Yale." The prince's eyes glanced about, not resting on anyone. His shoulders had tensed, and though he sipped his coffee, he took in everything about him. Sharp, observant, aware of his surroundings and the people he would live with. I liked that about him. "We're not world famous for anything, except the Mojave and gambling. You think he's a gambling addict?" Tyrone asked. "No way. He just wants to get away from Mommy and Daddy." "And he chose Las Vegas to do it?" "What stays in Las Vegas, or something like that, we'll never tell." "Much," I said, and clinked my Coca-Cola against his. A book slid off the table. Bang! It hit the floor. Both the prince and the bodyguard focused on it. A girl picked the book off the floor and opened it to whatever page she had been reading. I finished eating and checked the time. "Class starts in 30. I better get going. I'll text you later." Chapter 2. My first class of the day was oil painting. I hate oils. They get all over everything, take forever to dry, and to get the good paints cost a fortune. The cheap ones don't mix as well, but are all I can afford on my budget. Turpentine gives me a headache. The class is required for my major. I want to be a video game designer/artist, which means an art degree to understand colors and a computer degree to understand programming. A dual major is the goal. It will take longer and requires more credits, but once I graduate, it will be worth it. Tyrone is also an art major, but he is leaning toward commercial art with a focus on advertising. Honestly, I never expected to see Prince Charming again. Why would someone come all the way from Europe to study art? They wouldn't, and not in those clothes. Cardinal rule number 1, never paint in clothes you don't mind ruining, because you will destroy them. I walked into the classroom in the art building, chose a standing easel, and set up my canvas. I prepared it last night with a good coat of gray gesso. Sometimes it's easier to lighten an area instead of misjudging the shade later. While I unpacked my bucket of paints and brushes on the table by the easel, I watched the instructor, Professor Claire Dubois, arrange objects in the center of the room. A still life involving a pumpkin, a 4th of July flag, an old boot, a clock, a large bronze gong, and a fabric hanging from a hook and draping across the table. She adjusted a spotlight to create stark shadows and outlines on the objects. The other students wandered in and chose their easels and set up. Last to enter was Prince Alexander Beaumont, his bodyguard carrying a blank canvas and a polished paint case. The man still wore his tailored jacket, and the case looked brand new. One easel remained, the one nearest me. The prince, in his Italian leather loafers, stepped over the paint splotches across the floor. Amidst the rising smell of turpentine and somebody's egg bagel sandwich, the professor stepped to the middle of the room. Well, you finished setting up. Let me give you the details for today's assignment. It's an exercise in light versus dark, as revealed by the interplay between both textures and colors. Please note the subtle reflections created by the gong across the surface of the pumpkin, and the near lack of them on the fabric and the flag. We have 3 hours with a break at the hour marks. Questions? A middle-aged woman on the other side of the room raised her hand. Professor Dubois, can we shift positions before we start? It's either that or I will give you a beautiful picture of Tony's head. Tony waved so everybody knew it was him. And a beautiful head it is. You want me left or right? Left, thanks. I found my charcoal stubs and created a rough sketch, blocking in the major shapes and shading in the most dramatic shadows. 3 hours is not a lot of time for a painting like this. Mixing a lot of paint for the basic background, I applied it with my largest brush, blending it with hints of ochre and alizarin crimson. Not so much to attract attention, but enough to mimic the wall behind it. With a palette knife, I mixed up the oranges and browns I'd need for the pumpkin. The professor stepped beside me. 2 things, Dylan. The composition is accurate, but I want you to reconsider the pumpkin. Double-check the proportions. You've made it larger than it needs to be. Thank you, ma'am. Second, the color you're trying to mix? Try adding titanium white. It will brighten as well as cool the vibrancy. Overall, it's a very encouraging start. She stepped to Prince Alexander. The bodyguard slipped aside to let her pass. The prince stepped back. His mouth narrowed. The shadow placement is correct, Professor Dubois said, but I'm concerned with how you are holding your brushes. Your touch is too delicate, and the brush you are using is too small. As a general rule, use a bigger brush than what you think you'll need. Otherwise, you'll spend all day working on one square and not the whole picture. Remember, you have a deadline. He nodded, but his eyes hardened. You have painted before? The professor asked. It was required in the private school I attended, so yes, I have painted before. Oils? No, I enjoy watercolors. Opacity will be a challenge then. Here you'll work with solid masses instead of pigment washes. Though if you want to continue in that direction, check out the work by Richard Robinson. His technique uses delicate oil washes to achieve watercolor effects. The prince nodded, his smile grim. Also, Professor Dubois continued, I would recommend less formal clothes in future classes. A presence stood behind me. The bodyguard. Dark glasses, black suit, black earpiece. When he spoke, it was in an accent I wasn't familiar with. You've chosen a warmer color palette while the light is cooler. Any reason? He asked. I prefer warm tones. My grandmother was a portrait artist, though she switched to acrylics. She always said cool tones made people look like something out of The Walking Dead. He kind of smiled. And you applied it to still lifes? Don't need an undead pumpkin stomping around. The prince set his heel down hard. The prince isn't used to constructive criticism, the bodyguard said. Why's that? People in America don't treat him like royalty. They treat him like another European guy from a country they've never heard of. The bodyguard reached for one of my brushes with his left hand. May I? I stepped aside, handing him the palette. He lodged it on his right arm. He studied the pumpkin, then held the brush vertically at arm's length as though taking a measurement. A moment later, he made a small mark on my canvas. The height of the pumpkin? I asked. Professor Dubois was right. It's a little tall. He handed the brush back. Double check and see if you agree. I took the brush back, made my own measurement. My name is Dylan. You? Lucas Veit. He smiled as if to a private joke. Only my mom and the prince call me that, though. My friends call me Luca. He handed me back the palette, and I rested it on my left arm. His gaze held a subtle plea, as if uncertain which version I'd accept, the formal or the friendly. I chose friendly. Luca, it is. Chapter 3. A week before midterms, jack-o'-lanterns and ghosts decorated every store, including the bakery I worked at. After my shift at Epstein's Cookie Paradise, I'm a baker, sort of, I drove to Blick Art Supplies. To be a painter, you need paints. To be a student painter, you need lots of paints, especially cadmium yellow. Of the dozens of tubes I own, cadmium yellow is always running out. Phthalo blue is a close second. The bookstore on campus also sells them, but sometimes I need an excuse to get away from the dorms and the school. I picked up a red plastic shopping basket and wandered the aisles. I picked up more charcoal sticks, a charcoal pencil, an odd pencil sharpener that looked like a rubber duck I just had to have, and was browsing through paintbrushes. I'm hard on fan brushes, especially the smaller ones. A familiar form was just down the aisle, browsing through acrylics. Black suit, black glasses pushed to the top of his head, black earbud though it was currently hanging free. Luca, I called, walking over. His Majesty set you free for the day? He smiled when he saw me. The prince gave me a shopping list while he remains in the apartment, mentioned something about Vegas heat. Maybe I can help, I replied. I'm pretty familiar with the store. Maybe you can, Lucas said, pulling a couple of paints from the shelf. He held one in his left hand, reading the label and pigment quality. Technically, you refer to the prince as Your Highness. His father is Your Majesty. And you? I asked. Moving target. Here's the list. He showed me the text. We spent 10 minutes wandering around, finding supplies, looking through art desks, laughing as we put the drawing mannequins into bizarre positions. Instead of heading back to the prince, we went out to dinner. Mildred's Diner triple bacon cheeseburger and a strawberry blueberry shake for me, and he had an Inferno burger with a mango orange smoothie. We split the fries. Why did the prince come all the way to Nevada for school? I asked. Lucas set his burger on the table and met my eyes. King Nathaniel recently became aware of an international organization funneling money through the banking system. How much? Think one with 9 or 10 zeros behind it? That's pretty bad. It gets worse. Luca leaned back in his chair. To stop it, he ordered every Alastrian bank to disclose the information of thousands of secret foreign accounts. Then he aligned with European sanctions, despite Alastria's traditional neutrality. That can't have gone over well. Luca laughed once, without humor. Several billionaires lost fortunes. Criminal organizations lost access to money. A few foreign governments were less than pleased. And they threatened the king? The king, the queen, Prince Alexander, Prince Sebastian, the royal grandmother, even the royal dog. Anyone they thought might be useful leverage. Holy. Most of the threats were nonsense. Some weren't. Our security service intercepted enough credible threats that the crown prince was sent abroad. To Nevada? His face broke into a smile. Nobody would look for the future king of Alastria attending community college in Las Vegas. I chuckled. The only thing Professor Dubois would threaten is his grade. Chapter 4. Tyrone and I were sitting at the cafeteria when Prince Alexander and Luca walked in. The prince, as always, wore the tailored jacket, a white shirt, and plain red tie. Impeccable hair, eyes that quickly scanned the room, and not even a speck of dust dared mar his clothing. Luca carried the prince's backpack and a professional paint case. The air was loud with conversation and smelled of garlic and fried meat. Luca saw me and nodded. The prince noticed, and the slightest frown creased his lips. I assumed he recognized me. We had been painting in the same classroom for the last several weeks. He whispered something to Luca. Luca stiffened. Tyrone noticed. "It's 100 degrees outside. Why the jacket?" "Royal dress code?" "I don't think His Royal Highness likes you much." Secretly, I agreed, though Alexander had always acted polite. Like an Arctic cold spell freezing the crops was polite. "Class lasts only 13 more weeks, and then you'll never see him again." Tyrone stuffed a handful of chips into his mouth, barely glancing up from his book on the rise of Impressionism. Never see Luca again? That phrase cut. I didn't care if I didn't see the prince again. I didn't know him. What bothered me was never seeing Luca again. I stared at his retreating back and chewed in my pen. A bad habit, I know, but there are worse. We met at painting class that afternoon. This time, Professor Dubois had arranged for a live model, not a nude, but a man wearing a green plaid shirt, faded and ripped Levi's, and a reversed baseball cap. The professor spent several minutes setting up the stool and lighting, arranging him in the perfect position, and finally stepped back. Note the differences in hair, shirt, and skin. Pay attention to the secondary light sources. The exercise is about texture. I want you to think about what emotion you are conveying. Each brush stroke needs to reflect that inner feeling. I want to look at your work and feel something. Unlike past projects, this one lasts 2 sessions. "A 6-hour painting, ma'am?" a girl with a nose ring asked. "Is it okay if we take pictures to ensure accuracy?" Tony groaned. "I will expect it," Professor Dubois said, "but I also expect you to paint it live." I snapped a few reference photos before shooting a 30-second video. The other students did as well. Soon the air smelled of turpentine and paints. I used the odorless kind so I didn't get headaches, but other people used the regular variety. I can't win. I sharpened my charcoal pencil to sketch in the bulk of the figure, then used the sticks to shade in the broader areas. This time, I mixed a quick drying gel into the paints. Normally I don't, because it can dilute the color and sometimes crack when drying. But I also didn't want to worry about smearing. Canvases left overnight get bumped. The professor visited each student, lightly critiquing their work while offering suggestions for improvement. She stopped by the prince first. He held his palette in his left hand, his brush in his right, daintily applying small dabs of paint. Luca had found an old metal chair and was propped against the wall behind him. "You've made the arbs too long," the professor said. "They almost go down to his knees, and the pattern on the shirt is off. Let me see your brush." The prince handed it over, his jaw set. Professor Dubois proceeded to mark the canvas. Note the hand placement in relation to the stool. They actually end here. She handed the brush back. I do approve of your color choices and shadow placements. You are applying your knowledge of watercolor washes to oil. Difficult, but you are achieving results. Thank you, Professor, he said stiffly. The professor stepped to my easel, squinting. Proportions are accurate, and the shadow placement is reasonable. Let me see your color choices. I showed her my palette. Carry on, she said. Though the professor meant well, her visits always left me tense. I forced my shoulders to relax. It hadn't been bad. The prince's face soured, but he quickly hid it. I was about to start painting when Luca stepped behind me. She liked it. Does she like anything? I like it. Give me your palette. Do you mind? He held it in his right hand, took the brush with his left, and mixed a thick reddish brown for the skin shadows. With a 1/2-inch brush, he sketched in the shadows. You paint? I asked. I love it. Some of my favorite times were guarding the prince during his painting classes. Sometimes the instructors let me join in. Over in Alastria? I asked. The Alastria National University has an excellent arts program. Luca's face softened as he painted, an inner peace that eased the tension in his forehead. A hint of a smile appeared. Seeing him like this shifted something inside me. My feelings deepened, my heart quickened. Luca glanced at me and lowered the paintbrush. His breath was warm. His eyes, dark as shadow, flickered with an intimacy I couldn't name. I glanced back, wondering what would happen if I kissed him, right now, in class. How would the prince react? Or Professor Dubois? We were close. The look in his eyes made my breath catch. I'd better get back to the painting. The words came out halting. My hand reached for him, but I stopped myself. This wasn't the place or the time. He handed the palette back, and I held it in the crook of my left arm. Our fingers touched, only for a second, as I took the paintbrush from him. An electric tingle passed between us. Luca inhaled, long, slow, deliberate. Then a smile cracked his lips. His left hand found mine. What are you doing after class? I asked. The prince cleared his throat. Luca's smile vanished. Give me your phone number, I said, fumbling to get my phone out of my pocket. I unlocked it and handed it to him. He hesitated, then gave me his. What are you doing Friday? He asked. I don't have any plans. Chapter 5. Halloween night, I showed up for a high-end charity dinner held at the Bernini Hotel. The Prince of Alastria was the guest of honor. He wasn't the one that invited me. Luca had. I rented a tux to fit in and splurged on an Uber. I felt like a penguin, and it took a YouTube tutorial to learn how to button the shirt. I walked into the ballroom at the Bernini and stifled a gasp. Every person I'd seen on the news was here. Senators, representatives, the governor, movie royalty. And Prince Alexander Beaumont in his formal jacket, the one he even wore when painting. Luca wasn't the only bodyguard. A second one trailed the prince. I was in awe and very intimidated. My feet froze, and I kept to the shadows, hands stuffed in my pockets to keep from shaking. Women in designer gowns, men in black ties and tuxes, waitstaff in crisp white shirts and black ties balancing silver platters filled with cocktails. A violin quartet played soft classical music in the corner. A waiter approached. Dylan Parker? That's me. A place has been set for you. Please follow me. Where? She offered an apologetic smile. Due to the late notice, I'm afraid it's in the back. Luca, from across the room, looked at me. His face broke free of civility, forming a genuine smile. He nodded. I nodded back. As I took my seat, a text appeared. From Luca. We'll talk later. Let me know how you like the Topfenkuchen. It's Alastria's specialty. What's that? A cheesecake made with quark instead of cream cheese. I'll find you when I'm free. Dinner was a rotating art exhibit. Each plate was a marvel. The first course was an arugula salad with champagne dressing. Second course was mushroom ravioli in a brown butter sauce. Third was a 6-ounce beef tenderloin with a citrus reduction, green beans wrapped in ribbon-thin bacon, and garlic mashed potatoes in a delicate swirl across the plate, crowned with a single stalk of perfectly cooked asparagus. A bright red wine accompanied the meal. The waiter said it was a well-aged Sicilian frappato. I nodded, pretending I understood. Fourth course was a small cheese course featuring imported cheeses and thin slices of pear. A glass of Oregon Pinot Noir accompanied the plate, its earthy notes balancing the richness of the cheese. Or so they said. Dessert was a slice of Topfenkuchen, a pale cheesecake unlike the New York style I was used to. It was lighter, almost fluffy, topped with a blueberry and strawberry sauce, and served with a small glass of sweet Moscato. The people around me discussed notes and pairings. I concentrated on not holding the wrong fork. The prince disappeared with a couple of dignitaries, leaving his bodyguards alone. Luca raised his glass of Moscato in my direction. I saluted with a forkful of cheesecake. A blueberry slipped free and landed on the pristine tablecloth. Oops, I hope nobody saw. Luca's smile widened. Then he started toward me, uncaring who saw. I rose as he approached, setting the fork back on my plate. The wine had made Luca bold, and he took me out to a balcony overlooking the road. We were the only ones there. His eyes softened, the lights of the street reflecting in them. With a careful glance at his shoes, he paused to take a slow breath, and then took my hand. I need to tell you something. I don't expect you to understand because I can't understand it. What is it? I asked, yet my voice came out husky, vulnerable. I think, he began, and took a second, deeper breath. I'm having feelings for you, serious feelings. I waited, hesitant about what to say. I stayed quiet. His fingers tightened about mine. Is there a chance? Do you? God, this is hard, but do you have feelings too? I'm not here very long, but just tell me if I'm crossing a line. My head nodded without my control. A soft, whispered truth escaped my lips. I'd like to see what happens. He embraced me, the feel more than that of a friend. Without warning, Luca kissed me, the taste of the wine sharp on his lips. I succumbed to his warmth, melted in his arms, and for a moment that lasted forever, I let myself merge into his feelings. The heat of his mouth, the sparkle of the wine, the sudden intake of breath, and we shared something deep, something intimate. We broke apart, but only an inch, and I stared into his eyes. I saw something in those eyes that made my chest ache. That made no sense. We'd only known each other for weeks, yet my feelings were real. After 20 minutes enjoying the night air, we went inside. Someone made room for Luca at our table, and we fed a Lastrian cheesecake to each other. I went home late. Luca had to remain with the prince, but he called when the prince finally turned in. We spoke all night. Looking back, that was the last night where innocence had been a gift. Like all moments in heaven, ours ended when reality slammed into us, a runaway cement truck that could not be stopped. Chapter 6. Monday, 3 days after the Halloween gala. Prince Alexander kept mostly to himself, wearing the same jacket he seemed to wear no matter the occasion. In Vegas, in this temperature, most sane people wore tank tops or breathable fabric. The prince had to keep up appearances in that heavy thing. He must have it dry cleaned each night because it looked fresh out of the closet. I'd hate to be a prince if I had to wear that all the time. They didn't come to the cafeteria, but they later attended class. The prince remained composed. Luca had that severe look most students had before exams. We spoke only a little, and he said, "I have to stick close to the prince." "Did you get in trouble at the dinner for talking to me?" I asked. A fragile smile flickered. That was the best part of the night. At a look from the prince, Luca left me and remained close to his side. His eyes shadowed every person who opened the door, whether they entered or left. The prince left 10 minutes before class ended, telling Professor Dubois that he wasn't feeling well. Luca glanced at me, seeming almost to say something. The moment passed, and he quietly spoke into his phone. "Have the car ready." Tuesday. I had set my news feeds for Alastria. Normally it was quiet except for some tourist stuff. This morning was different. King Nathaniel Beaumont had frozen all foreign accounts, and international panic sent the stock market tumbling. Stupidly, I brushed it aside. Alastria was 6,000 miles away. How could that affect me? The next day, I met Tyrone and a couple of friends for lunch, my painting bucket and supplies next to me. The prince was not at his usual seat. Luca was not there either. That disturbed me. I glanced around, suddenly nervous when there was nothing to be nervous about. "His Royal Majesty must have decided to sleep in today," Tyrone shrugged. "Must be nice." I searched the cafeteria. They weren't anywhere. In class, the prince's usual easel sat vacant. Unease drifted through my stomach. I had trouble mixing colors, and I spent too much time with the charcoal pencil blocking in shapes. Professor Dubois approached me just after class started. Her brows furrowed. "That's not like the prince to miss class. Have you heard anything?" "No," I replied. For the first time, I realized that maybe the turmoil in that faraway country could affect life here in Vegas. Later that class, Professor Dubois took one look at the muddle on my canvas and replied, "A comatose chihuahua could paint better than you today. Go get you a drink and a candy bar. Clear your head, then try again." On break, I tuned into CNN or BBC about world events. Banking turmoil in Alastria, financial markets in disarray, the news person quipped. Stocks are holding their breath as investors wait to see whether these measures are temporary or the beginning of something far more serious. Whatever it was, it scared the prince enough not to show up to class. The next day, the prince entered the cafeteria, the jacket tight on him. He glanced my way, face composed, but his eyes seemed sad. Then my heart stopped, and not in a good way. A different bodyguard shadowed him. Luca wasn't there. Chapter 7. Once the prince sat down, I called Luca. Straight to voicemail. I sent a text. No one responded. The air smelled of garlic and workaholics flavored with a little espresso. Tyrone sipped his coffee. "Maybe he got reassigned for kissing you. Royalty has a lot of formal rules that don't make sense." "Should I ask the prince?" I asked. I looked at the prince. He was checking something on his phone, mouth grim, and slowly eating a breakfast burrito with his left hand. "Has anybody really talked to him?" Tyrone asked. I held my Coke, enduring the ache in my chest. The man keeps to himself a lot, except for the gala the other night. "Do you really think it's my fault?" "If it walks like a duck," Tyrone replied. My phone beeped with a text. From Luca? "See you in class. Act casual." "What does that mean?" Tyrone chuckled. "Maybe he's just sick?" "You better hope he's not pregnant. It was only a kiss, right?" His mischievous eyes danced. I wadded up a napkin and threw it at him. He swatted it like a baseball. "Strike one." "Luca doesn't strike me as a bottom." I held the cold Coca-Cola, feeling the moisture condense on the sides. "Dylan, my friend, I get to plan your baby shower." "Pervert. And proud of it," he chuckled. "Read enough BL romances and sometimes you wonder." The hum of the air conditioners interrupted us. We cleared our trays and headed to our classes. The prince had already arrived and was adjusting his canvas with his left hand. I chilled, but didn't know why. I sat up on the easel next to him, just like normal, setting up my gear and preparing my palette. Professor Dubois arranged an old metal gas can, a metal barber pole, an old PlayStation controller, and a clear vase. She placed a large flat-screen TV behind them all. When everyone had arrived, the professor said, "Today's exercise is not about texture, but we will focus on reflection. The primary light source creates one set of shadows. I want you to practice your subtlety and display secondary and tertiary reflections. Remember, stay true to the object's primary color scheme. Titanium white might appear the best choice to lighten a color, but think about a hint of yellow instead, or maybe cobalt blue. Allow yourself to be creative. 3 hours, people." When the professor came to me, she frowned. "Your proportions are off. I've seen you paint better. Whatever's bothering you, let the emotion flow through the paintbrush." And to the prince, "Your technique is much stronger today. You are more confident in how you hold your paintbrush." I glanced over, not jealous, more like confusion. The prince stood at the easel, palette in the crook of his right arm, a 1-inch brush held in his left hand. He wore his princely jacket, but today it had green paint on the cuff. The chill ran up my spine. I didn't know why. It looked like the prince, same height, same dark eyes, same jacket. But he was holding the palette in his right arm. Not his left, not like the prince. Like Luca. The prince met my eyes. Recognition flashed through me. That wasn't the prince. It was a man made to look like the prince. He nodded, pursing his lips as if silently shushing me. It was Luca. Chapter 8. During a break, I walked over to Luca. I kept my voice low. "What's going on?" He led me out of the hall and we found an empty classroom. The new bodyguard stood watch just outside the door. "We only have a minute," he said. "Are you the real prince?" "No," Luca replied, smiling. "I'm the acting double. Prince Alexander is in hiding. Some very powerful people are very upset with King Nathaniel." "Can that be dangerous?" "Like I told you, I'm the moving target." A note of sarcasm stained his voice. "They want anyone watching to believe Prince Alexander is still attending art classes and eating cafeteria food. If somebody takes a shot, they'd rather it be at me." His next words broke something inside me. "Being near me puts you in danger. It's better if we separate for now." Luca's voice never wavered, but his eyes were bloodshot. The makeup barely hid the darkness beneath his eyes. Sane people would keep their distance. The danger could be real, which made what I did next completely insane. "Sound like fun." Luca's jaw worked as if there were words, but nothing came out. I bit my lip, realizing the weight of what I had just admitted to. I took Luca's hand, lacing my fingers around his. "Are you sure?" Luca asked. "Someone has to watch your back." I leaned forward and kissed his nose. Chapter 9. I didn't get to see Luca the entire Thanksgiving weekend. The prince had some formal invitation from the governor that commoners couldn't attend, and Luca kept up the act. No one noticed he wasn't the real one. I don't think anyone knew. Except for me. Sunday night, I sat in my apartment staring at the news. One of the highlights was Luca, dressed as the prince in his royal jacket, waving at the crowds. The sun had set, and I was setting out my supplies for the morning. when a soft knock sounded on my door. Not expecting anyone, I thought it might be my neighbor across the hall. She always needs help with opening jars or rescuing her cat from the top of a tall cabinet. Her cat is afraid of heights, knows how to climb, hates the descent. It wasn't her. It was Luca dressed in normal clothes, the princely jacket draped over his shoulder. Though his hair was dyed the exact color of the prince's, his dark eyes held bone-weary shadows underneath. Mind if I crash on your couch? I'm tired of posing for the camera. I opened the door and let him in. I'll make coffee. As we binged 911, Luca softly snored. I set his half-empty cup on the coffee table and tucked a quilted blanket my grandma had made around him. Before I shut the lights off, I looked at the exhausted man sleeping on my couch. The stress had eased on his face. Something warm blossomed in my chest. I shut the lights out and double-checked my fridge for extra eggs, sausage, and bagels. It had been a long time since I made breakfast for someone. Chapter 10. Thursday, the first week in December, Tyrone and I sat in the cafeteria killing time until it was time for class. Luca, still posing as the prince, sat in his usual spot, texting. It was our secret, but he was texting me. "Dylan, bro, you've been holding out. I'm hurt," Tyrone said. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Tyrone smirked, holding his phone up. "Do you want to confess anything? Harboring any royal fugitives, maybe? I am your best friend, and you've been keeping secrets." I glanced at Luca before I spoke. "I don't know what you're talking about." Tyrone played a video. My face became a hot plate. Is an American romance in the stars for Prince Alexander Beaumont? Some podcaster stated in a flirty tone. While the king of Alastria is dealing with a financial nightmare, the heir has been seen holding hands with fellow student and painter Dylan Parker in Las Vegas. They both attend UNLV and even attended the Halloween Gala together. Witnesses say they were seen leaving together from Dylan's apartment. An image appeared of Luca, dressed as the prince, kissing me outside my apartment building Monday morning. "Oops. Out with it," Tyrone barked. "If I say yes, will this become an international scandal? And if I say that it was Luca the bodyguard, will I be outing that the prince is in hiding?" I said the only thing that made sense. "It's complicated." Tyrone leaned forward, his eyes greedy. "Did you sleep with him?" I rolled my eyes and texted Luca, "You see the news?" "Sorry, I didn't think this would happen." I nodded twice and gave my best friend a lopsided smile. "I guess there's no point in hiding it." I picked up my gear and walked over to Luca's table. His eyebrows rose. "How would you like to create an international scandal?" I asked, flirting to hide something nervous inside me. Luca stared at me. "Dylan?" "Because apparently we're doing a terrible job avoiding one." "No," Luca said. "I'm paid to have a target on my back. I don't want you hurt." "Too late. We're in this together." I rested a hand on his forearm, the jacket stiff underneath. "I'm not letting you face this alone." "Dylan, please, this could get ugly." "That's when you know who your friends are," I replied. I sat down beside him, gripped the loyal lapels of his jacket, and planted one on his lips. Something sizzled in my heart. Barely a second, but we connected. And Luca tasted good, kind of that soft taste after someone has been drinking orange juice. His stunned smile and disbelieving eyes told me everything I needed to know. "Together," he whispered. "Together," I repeated. Chapter 11. The Bernini Hotel held its annual tree lighting ceremony on Saturday, December 13th. The tree in question was a 50-foot longleaf pine from Mercy, Alabama, erected in the plaza before the main entrance. Festive garlands draped the entrance, and a candy cane booth for Santa sat at the base of the tree. A live band played Christmas carols, kids clamored for Santa, and crews from Channel 8 and Channel 3 had cameras trained on the temporary stage. Several dignitaries were in attendance, including Senator Rourke, but the guest of honor was the visiting Prince of Alastria, in his regal jacket. Don't know how they got the paint off those cuffs. Maybe he has more than one jacket? I was Prince Charming's +1. Or maybe I should say I am the fake Prince Charming's +1. Whatever. Not only was I standing beside Luca on stage, but before the night was over, the whole world would know I was in love with the prince, and that the prince was in love with me. Except the real prince had no idea, though I suspected he'd figure it out pretty quickly. Is Alexander even gay? I whispered to Luca. He looked at me as if I'd lost my mind. You're worried about that now? I shrugged. Think of this as payback for making me the decoy, Luca said. I wrapped my arms inside the jacket, holding his waist. I closed my eyes and enjoyed his kiss. For a moment, I even forgot everybody could see us. Admittedly, it was the best revenge kiss I'd ever had. Probably the only one, too. And now the whole world was going to see it. The world spun in slow motion. My back was to the audience. Lucas shouted, "Damn, get down!" He shoved me, fast. I fell, hard, hands and knees. Thunder exploded. Luca jerked like he'd been hit in the back. "Luca!" I yelled. He stiffened. He couldn't breathe. The crowd screamed. A shriek that echoed. Luca fell, slow, shock in his eyes. He looked at me. Someone yelled, "Gunshot!" Luca tried to breathe, gasped instead. Then he dropped, face first, limp. "Luca!" I yelled. I lunged. Catching him, I turned him over, laid him flat. Was he breathing? No. A woman screamed, "The prince is dead!" Was there a heartbeat? Couldn't tell. CPR, it's been years. Breathe for him. Press chest 5 times. Damn it. Repeat. The world narrowed. Only me. Only Luca. A man in paramedic blue took over. He splayed the jacket wide, ripped the wide shirt open, and attached several monitors to his chest. Another paramedic attached a small black box to his finger. Heart rate 90, oxygen 96. He's breathing, but erratic. No obvious signs of injury, the paramedic said. Luca was shot in the back, I said. No blood. They eased Luca just enough for the paramedic to peek. Bullet penetrated the jacket on the right side. Get the collar and backboard. Spinal injury possible. Fear wiggled up my spine. My heart went arctic cold. My hands began shaking. I stopped breathing. Luca had said his role was the moving target. The fear became horror. The lips I had just kissed didn't move, didn't answer. Luca's skin was white as paper. No one argued when I said, "I'm coming with Luca." Chapter 12. What's his name? The paramedic asked once we were inside the ambulance. Luca Veit. He was the decoy for Prince Alexander. The paramedic squinted at me. A voice croaked from the gurney. Can't believe you outed me. Shock ripped through my body. I gripped Luca's hand, blinked back tears. You're alive? Though very pale, Luca grimaced as he smiled. I need a new job. I bent over and kissed his forehead. How are you even conscious? Painfully, he replied. Relief flooded every nerve in my body. I stroked his hair. My breathing came in staggered gasps. The paramedic looked at the jacket and chuckled. Well, I'll be. What? I asked. Jacket's lined with Kevlar, he said. No wonder. He looked at Luca. You're still getting x-rays. Epilogue. I sat on Luca's hospital bed, still wearing the wrinkled clothes from yesterday. Luca lay on his left side, shirtless, exposing the massive bruise on his back. It was the size of a couch cushion and the color of a ripe eggplant. A warming pad was propped against his bare back. He didn't want cold, just something warm to snuggle up against the pain. The X-rays were on the monitor. 2 cracked ribs. The royal jacket had been taken into evidence, as had the squashed bullet stuck to the Kevlar lining. "If I don't move, it doesn't hurt much," Luca whispered. "Liar," I replied. I hadn't let go of his hand all night. Detective Briggs walked in, her mouth perpetually frowning. "We've apprehended the shooter." "Did he give a reason?" I asked. She nodded. He was part of an illegal organization that was furious when the king froze finances. "Seems they've been funneling money through Alastria for a very long time," she said. "We've been in contact with the royal family. All are safe, and the prince is appreciative of your protection. They've agreed to cover all medical bills and rehabilitation expenses." "They should," I muttered. Luca squeezed my hand. "Is it safe for me to leave?" The detective nodded. "As long as you are you. The king has made enemies, but since you're not family, you should be safe. The word is that the prince has left the States for parts unknown." After she left, the doctor arrived. Since the royal family were paying, the hospital kept Luca a second night for observation. When we were alone, I adjusted the blanket over him so he wouldn't chill. Luca could barely move, but he was alive. "When they release you," I said, "I don't think you should be alone." Luca nestled his head on the pillow as best he could, hiding a wince. "I have the prince's apartments for as long as I need them. It has several bedrooms. Do you want to move in? Not for anything romantic, but for medical reasons only." His eyes pleaded. I pretended to think for a few seconds. "Does it have a king-sized bed?" "In the master suite." Luca sighed, mildly stretching to try and get comfortable. Leaning close, I innocently whispered, "I want to stay close, in case you need anything." His gentle smile was all the answer I needed. The end. Thank you, everybody, for joining me and Bentley. I appreciate it. Bentley finally fell asleep, but he was very active at the beginning of our story. I appreciate you listening and staying to the end. Thank you, everybody. I love you all. We'll see you next time. Peace, my friends.